And we are live.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Welcome to the Pluralist Method. This is our Sunday show. And we've been hit or miss. Things have been busy. We were away last week again, but we're back at it.
Yeah, it works out. I mean, in all honesty, if you can't catch us live, you can always catch us after the fact, after we post the YouTube
On
video.
the YouTube channel, you can always see all our live content.
We
will
would
automatically
like to
be uploaded there.
We would like to get to a point where people can consistently watch live, but I mean,
just things have been busy.
Yeah, I'm sure people know that life happens. So. Yeah,
it's very chaotic.
The zero people watching at the moment.
All right, before we get started, we got a pretty good topic for today. We're just going to cover the debate, do a little debate roundup. We'll come back with our part 2 of our ethics and what was the title of that?
Ethics in government. Should ethical standards be same?
Consistent among the different branches of government. Part 2 of that. We still got a lot to discuss there, and we'll get back to that next week. But we did want to go over the debate because we had a few things we wanted to say on it.
And I mean, we want to make some more predictions to see if they come true.
Sure, we haven't talked about the Democratic primary in a little while, so
yeah, it's been
we've got some new ideas, and we just want to go over what's happened thus far.
I'm quite excited about
It's always a engaging conversation, just following that. We'll about to get into it. Before, of course, we get started here, please follow us on Twitter, like and subscribe if you have not already, and if you can help us out, please feel free to leave a tip or donation, and all those links are down below. Got anything else you want to throw out there, or you want to get into it?
No, just follow us at Pluralist Method on Twitter. I don't really post much, but it would be nice to have some followers.
Sure. All right, before this gets too sad, let's get started here. All right, so I have up here the on our screen to the right.
I'm just gonna talk like this for the rest of the episode, just all sad until we get
sad boy.
Okay,
sad boy trap.
Yeah.
All right, so over here on the right, we have the recent polling data. We're just looking over that. And, I mean, everything's pretty much remained the same. We've had a little bit of movement. Biden's somewhat remained consistent, some dips, some spikes. Warren's been making some steady progress upward over the past couple months. Yeah. Sanders stayed pretty consistent. The biggest loss has definitely been Harris. She's taken into a downward spiral. So we could say in our tier listing that we were a bit off on that prediction.
Yeah, what did we place Kamala
We
as?
placed Harris as an A.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
wow.
We thought she would hold on for a bit longer than she seems to have. I mean, of course, who knows what will happen.
I think that, though, if anyone's watched the previous episodes, obviously I'm not really too much of a fan of Kamala Harris.
Sure, neither of us were.
Yeah, primarily because of the constitutionality issues that she kind of lays out there, and it's pretty blatant. She has
questionable
no regard.
Track record.
Yeah, but she has. It seems like during the debates, even during the past one, she expresses no regard for constitutionality.
I mean, she was kind of non-existent during this last one.
Yeah, well, I'm referring to instead of saying no, we can't. Let's say yes, we can, which is really, really bad.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
That aside, I do think she still has the possibility of utilizing her political stratagem to make it maybe to number 2 or number 3
in
eventually.
The primaries.
Yeah, I don't think she'll win. I think she had her shot, and now it's kind of dying out. I may be wrong on that, but I just don't see it.
I mean, she's still within the top 5, so I think it's reasonable to assume that anyone within that top 5, top 8, still has a slight chance, even if it's, 5 or less than 1% or something, 5% or 1% or less.
Exactly. Of course, Buttigieg is
Buttigieg is spiked a little bit over Harris.
Yeah, he may actually.
It's not a huge jump, but he's making upward progress.
He may start an upward climb if he can continue this momentum and kind of mimic Elizabeth Warren's strategy just a little bit, in the sense that he'd be putting out policy and shit like that. He may actually
policy and shit
like that. You know, shit like policy and things. You know,
that's how the real OGs say it.
Yeah. It's actually how professionals say it.
Oh.
Experts in policy making, really. Yeah. It's policy.
I could see Bernie out there like policies and shit like that.
Oh yeah, you definitely.
I'm not gonna do a Bernie's impression, but
I'm not either. I don't think I could. It's like a weird Maine or Vermont accent.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know they had accents, but yeah, it's like I don't know. Anyway. Nope, we're getting off topic. I'm not gonna talk about his accent.
Far in there, but yeah, I mean, it's not too big of a jump, but he's definitely making progress. And a lot of people kind of said that in the past debate, while it was a solid showing, he wasn't, I'm not gonna say memorable, but some of the more middle tier candidates, kind of in the middle of the pack, weren't really, I don't say knowledge, but didn't really make that much of a splash in the last debate.
I actually disagree a little bit. I think that Biden did really well. Elizabeth Warren and Bernie did pretty well, but I honestly think that the lower tier candidates, they solidified a little bit of. I think they solidified a little bit of their base, which is important. I don't think they gained much, but I think that the people that already followed them are following them more strongly, if that makes sense.
Yes, kind of. I mean,
yeah. Okay.
Their confidence is increased within the candidate they might already be following.
Yes. And I think that that's important, because you have to you got to think, for any of these middle or even the top tier candidates to gain any more support, they have to take it from somewhere. And if people are shoring up their confidence in who they like,
it's less likely you might pull from a lower candidate or something.
So,
and we'll actually get into that. I have a question, a fun little thing we're gonna try out later. We were actually discussing it earlier, but I think it'd be kind of cool to see what.
No, it'll be really good. And we'll and eventually we'll actually be able to see this happen. So
yeah, we'll get to see what happens from it.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool.
How it plays out in real time.
Predictions work out on that.
Of course, we got O'Rourke and Yang. They were both around.
O'Rourke did pretty well.
3. You liked O'Rourke.
O'Rourke in the third debate, he did extraordinarily well. I mean, I would, to say the least, I was impressed. Much more impressed than Castro.
And Castro is one of the candidates I would say it's probably made, taken the biggest hit from the debate.
Yes.
I mean, he's dropped below 1% according to the national average here.
No, that's, I mean, almost certain. He, like, if you analyze the debate, he lost it. Like, he came in last.
Yeah. I mean, he took the aggressive approach and it didn't really pan out.
Well, also, his statement wasn't accurate. So there's that. I mean, if there was accuracy in his statement, some people may have defended him a little bit.
Perhaps. But I think a lot of people, even if it was accurate, still felt that, his approach was a bit.
That's absolutely true. He actually would have done better to mimic Kamala Harris's approach during the first debate.
I was about to make that comparison.
That way, but he didn't. He's gone actively aggressive. But in my opinion, the fact that he was blatantly wrong about his attack in the first place actually just sweeps the sweeps the rug out from underneath him in a way, because I mean, there's no leg to stand on.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty embarrassing if you're gonna throw that vicious of an assault on someone and be completely wrong.
And it was a plan. I think it was a planned attack.
Oh sure.
He was searching for a moment to use that line and then really hit it hard, and it backfired hard. I mean, yeah, Poor Castro.
So yeah, he's dropped below 1%. It looks like it's probably, I would say, as far as the candidates we saw in the past debate, he's probably the one that's going to be dropping off
pretty soon.
Next, out of the candidates we saw in the past debate.
Yes.
Well, there's still a few others that aren't up on the stage that may drop.
There are others
then,
that will drop before.
Sure, yes, of course.
I can guarantee
but
that.
But as
actually,
far as what we've seen.
Yeah. Well, first off, we're supposed to see some new fundraising numbers coming up soon. It's the third quarter, I think, right? Third quarter.
I mean, we're coming to the end of the third quarter.
End of the third quarter. Yeah. So we'll
within the year.
Yeah.
So
we should see their third quarter fundraising numbers, which will be interesting. And it's likely that we'll see the candidates that weren't on the stage not really reporting promising numbers.
Well,
you know what I mean?
With the exception of one, apparently.
Well, if you were talking about Steyer, it's basically self-funded. So...
I mean, he was able to pull from that self-funding enough to get the polls he needed, you know?
Yeah, the polls, as well as the donations he needed. But if you look at the way he did it, he basically spent more money than he brought in, which is not a great way to fundraise, but it is a great way to get up on a damn stage.
It's the greatest, best way you can pay your way up to on that stage.
Exactly.
And so and then Booker, of course, and Klobuchar filling out the bottom end. We've got Gabbard
really like
still.
Booker is cool, and so is Klobuchar. I can't believe I'm upset that they're not doing a little bit better personally, but
of course you have Gabbard as well. Overall national average here, about at 1%.
If she does well,
do you know what she needs as far as?
I think she's missing a poll. Don't quote me on that, but I think she's missing one poll.
Okay.
And also Marianne Williamson behind her, I think, is missing 2 polls.
Okay.
But
the national has her at 0.5. So
Williamson or Gabbard? Williamson.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, Gabbard's at 1.
I want to see Williams back on a stage. That was Williams
for entertainment.
That was awesome.
And then, of course, moving to Iowa, the caucus within Iowa, which is the first primary up. We have, they're actually reporting Warren above Biden at 23 over 20.
Really? I'm not too surprised. I honestly think that given the timing of the primaries, of who's coming up first, Iowa and then New Hampshire, I think Warren might win both of those, if current levels maintain the way they are. Like if she doesn't have a huge detrimental snafu
incident, nothing that.
Yeah, if all things are the same, she's in line to win.
I definitely believe she'll probably win New Hampshire.
Oh,
if she doesn't take, if not Iowa as well.
Yeah, I think she could take Iowa. Which is odd because initially I did not think that Iowa was going to be open to her because the ideological kind of atmosphere
region of the U.S.
Yes, of the Midwest is not typically,
and of course
it doesn't typically bode well for very far left candidates.
Sure, and obviously we can't entirely rely on history, but I mean Iowa's always been kind of an oddball case. Being the first primary, you get a lot of times it's not always who you expect would win. I mean, looking at the previous primaries, I remember back in, what was it, the 2008 election, the Republican primaries, I believe Huckabee won Iowa. And I think Ron Paul was in third, I believe, there.
Oh, man.
So there's a lot of, and you know what happened with that. I think Mitt Romney, he was, don't quote me on this, but I think he was even below the top 3, I want to say.
Mitt Romney is actually one of the...
Oh, sorry, that wouldn't have been Mitt Romney. That would have been McCain. Excuse me.
Yes. Mitt Romney currently is one of the only Republicans I can think of that I would consider a moderate. Can you think of any other ones? I mean, McCain
was, yeah.
but given the fact that he's no longer living,
yes,
that doesn't count. I'm trying to. I can't. I'm sure there are.
Definitely within
the House of
Representatives.
Course.
Yeah.
I'd say absolutely.
Senator wise, I'd have to.
I don't know.
Look into it. I can't. Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't want to say anything. For sure. And even Mitt Romney. I mean, I think he talks a big game, but he folds pretty easily.
I'll reserve judgment because I don't have enough of the history on him to say.
Particularly with a lot of Trump statements, he's kind of spoken out against them, but then when it actually comes time to maybe vote on or actually take action, he'll give in and just fall to.
But that's more politics than I'd say personal ideology, which
sure. But if his politics end up resulting in more extreme ideas,
that's possible. But you also have to consider who's in power, and if you are a moderate and the control of the Congress, the Senate in particular, is held by farther right-leaning individuals, then you have to kind of step in line and kind of bide your time, I'd say. So I'd say it's more political strategy rather than even ascribing political ideology.
I mean, personally, we'll have to see in time,
Yes. Well, that's my prediction.
All right, fair enough. So yeah, that's just a brief overview of some of the polling data we have here. But I wanted to move into just going over the debate in general.
Yep.
Just give a brief overview of your thoughts and just discuss that a little bit. So yeah.
Okay.
Third debate.
First off,
10 on the stage, 3 hours. Who won?
Yeah, who won? Who won it? In your opinion? Wow,
Man,
this is good podcasting. Okay, so
I mean, I think Warren had a pretty strong showing.
Mm-hmm.
I think, despite a couple snafus, I mean, Biden didn't do too bad. I don't know if you would say he won.
I'd say Biden and Warren are of the two of the top figures that came out of the third debate.
I'm trying to think of some of the lower.
I'd also say Klobuchar did quite well.
Candidates that, I mean, I know you liked O'Rourke. I wasn't.
Yes. Why not, actually?
I thought the gun control comment was a bit much, a bit harsh.
It was passionate, in my opinion. I mean,
passionate, but I mean, in my opinion, that's not his aggressive approach to just saying we're going to completely just take all your guns in an aggressive way.
All right, so
I don't know if it's
that's a fair statement, but I want to break down the political strategy of it. Okay. So first off, there is the idea itself, which I agree with you. I don't think it's a great stance to take, especially
and the way it was worded as well.
We'll talk about that in a second because I kind of disagree with you on that. But just the idea itself, given the fact that we are in the midst of potential gun reform legislation happening, bipartisan gun reform legislation, I don't think that it was a good idea to take that stance because it kind of gives ammunition to gun rights.
Yeah. People might be opposed to regulation.
Exactly.
Kind of like persuading their base that this is the what you all fear. This is what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah, and it's already been done as well. There have been ads that have heavily focused on just that statement. So the stance, I think, is probably not a politically great one, especially given the time that it's in. But let's look at some other things. The clarity in which he spoke, okay? It was very upfront. It was very honest and very refreshing. That right there, that honesty in and of itself, and his passion, actually does very good things for him, I think. Primarily because I have a belief that most primary voters and general voters kind of want their candidate to at least be perceived as honest and having integrity.
Sure.
So I think that's a fantastic thing. At the way he said it, just like that. He said, "Are you going to take their guns?" "Hell yeah, we're going to take their guns." And then he continued, and it was an impassioned speech. So I honestly, I can't fault him too much on
I
that.
will say,
that was done
most likely
well.
for Democratic primary voters, it probably bodes well for them. I mean,
absolutely.
maybe not in the full presidential election.
Well, he won't.
But in the primary,
he's not going to be the general candidate.
Sure. But yeah, in the primary, I could see how something like that would go over well. I guess, in my own personal opinion, it didn't do much for me. Would you say he actually? I guess you would say that you, I don't know, approved or enjoyed him in this debate, as well as making a strong showing.
Yeah, he did have a strong showing for a couple reasons, and I'm going to sound like a bit of an asshole for saying this. First off, the fact that they were in Texas is a very good thing.
Sure.
At least for Beto O'Rourke.
And of course, a lot of people were throwing him compliments based on the El Paso shooting.
No one is going to attack the guy who just went to El Paso to spend time with the community he is very passionate about serving. And I can be very...
It's like they almost felt obligated to throw him a compliment.
They were politically obligated to. So he not only had that on his side, but of course they're also not going to attack him either because they're in Texas. And the proximity to El Paso is noticeable. So he's got a shielding already. That means the attacks of the previous...
Were they in Austin?
What?
Were they in Austin?
Yes.
Where were they? Okay.
Yes, I'm pretty sure. But either way, the fact that he's not going to be attacked like he was during the previous debates is great for him. There's also the fact that he is passionate about what he's talking about. He's on home turf, which means people are coming out to see him, which means when he makes a statement, he's likely going to get a few more ovations.
More positive feedback.
Yes, exactly. So all of that factors in and may influence our perception of how it actually went. So I do think that it was a strong showing. I also think that while he won't make it to the general election, I do think that he may win in a Senate race against
So you're calling for him to drop out and take up
I'm not calling for it
campaign.
because he's actually been asked to do that a few times already. I'm sure you've
I think we both discussed before how we agreed that he shouldn't have again pursued this to begin with, and probably should have went again for Senate within Texas.
Yeah,
I think it was a close race last time. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't take that on again.
With the funds and the contacts that he has made during this presidential election campaign, I think that he can utilize that momentum
and run with it.
To just go on and make it all the way to Senate, and that would actually be a pretty
and
damn
there's a
big
seat
hit.
And there's a seat up for in 2020. Do you know
let's
that
look
for a fact?
And that's a pretty big thing. If not 2020, but then the next race, because those funds will still be able to be utilized for a federal election. But the Republicans would take a pretty big hit in the Senate because Texas has been pretty stable for a long time, and they are shifting now to closer to the center. They will be a battleground state, if not in 2020, 2024, or the
within the next
one.
decade.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% believe that.
So yes, there is a Senate seat open in 2020, both Republican and Democratic. So I'm assuming that's either like a retirement or their tenure is up. If we're coming from both sides, so they've already got a few on both the Republican and Democratic side that have declared.
Okay.
Oh, so it looks like I mean, this is just simply on Wikipedia, but it's stating that Beto O'Rourke actually declined.
Oh, well, no, people have asked him to, and he has said no. But then again,
Do you know the cutoff as far as?
I do not.
They also have Julian Castro. Apparently asked and declined as well.
Well, yeah. I'm actually, Castro may do well as well also. I mean, he already has a sibling in Congress. I don't know. Is his brother is in the House, right? He's a
Castro?
yeah, Castro's brother.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he's a senator. That wouldn't make sense. Cuz I think both of the senators are Republicans, aren't they? In Texas?
Yeah, currently.
Yes. So it's
Cruz.
It's
and
very unlikely that Castro's twin brother is a Republican.
John Cornyn is the
Sure.
incumbent.
Yeah, I know all about him. I will need to learn a little bit more about that, about the incumbent.
Yeah, he won by 61%.
Okay.
Last election, 2014.
Yeah.
The Democratic only putting up 34%. So.
No, but yeah, I do think that that Beto will do pretty well. If Castro went for Senate, I think that he could also do pretty well. I mean, just given the fact that he literally has a brother in Congress is kind of a good thing. He's dynamic.
He could pick up a lot of the minority vote.
Possibly. I actually think that the Hispanic community isn't as one-sided as say like the Black community or actually the LGBT community if we're going outside of race. It's not nearly as monolithic.
Really, you would say the LGBT community is more one-sided as far
yeah,
as...
they're definitely more Democrat.
I'm talking about as far as behind a candidate. Specifically, like within a openly gay candidate or something.
Actually,
obviously, I know they're one-sided
probably.
as far as.
No,
I guess I'm saying more so behind, like they might get behind one specific candidate within the Democratic Party. Obviously, I know
I
they're
probably
one-sided
wouldn't go that
there.
Far. Because
so I'm saying like the Black
certain.
community, like typically you have a candidate or two that will really be
Biden
the support
is
of
currently
Biden. Yes,
taking most of
that's what I'm asking. Obviously, I know the.
Yeah, I was
obviously.
I was like, wait, what?
No.
I mean, you got the log cabin Republicans, but I mean,
there's always going to be a few. There's always going to be a few.
Yeah. No, I'm not sure. I can't say for certain.
So like Buttigieg is the LGBT community.
I don't think that matters. In all honesty, within the LGBT community, primarily.
Somebody's gonna mess it up at some point. Yeah. Keep saying
it. Anyway, within that community, I honestly think that there are other factors that may.
That's an interesting question though, because I've never thought of that before, as far as if they would be. But
it's possible. It likely depends on the candidate. But no, I wouldn't go that far at this point because I don't have any evidence that would suggest that.
But I would agree with you as well. I don't think it's like that as something like race or another factor might be involved. I think it's more spread out over policy oriented or whatever candidate they might throw their support behind.
Yeah. Yeah. And within the Hispanic community as well, you actually see a bit more of a, I guess, split between Democrats and Republicans even. It is a little more one-sided.
A lot of the social issues, a lot of the Hispanic community tends to be more conservative.
Yes. Actually, very similar in that regards to the Black community as well. So, I mean, it'll be interesting. So I don't think Castro would garner a a significant a significant number of extra votes due to
based on
his race.
His race.
Not in that circumstance at all.
Fair enough. All right, so where were we? We got a little sidetracked there, but we were going into as far as we were on O'Rourke and his showing in the debate.
Yeah, but actually, I think I've said most of what I wanted to say about Beto. I think he did well overall. Within the primary, I think he may have changed a few minds. He might not have garnered a whole lot more support, but I think that the individuals who previously kind of wrote him off may actually give him an opportunity now. Like, say, I'd be willing to consider him. So, and that's kind of a big thing because he did really shitty on the previous debates.
Sure.
And I think that his unfavorability rating actually prevented him from gaining too much more support. So, could be a good thing for him.
Fair enough. And who else do we have in there? Of course, my man Yang. I think Yang once again had moments where he really shined, but then other questions or responses that he came out with didn't really go too well. I think it was kind of a mixed bag once again, as he was in the second debate.
We also have to take into account the fact that he's not exactly a traditional Democrat.
Sure.
I would actually consider him very much a libertarian. I think that if he ended up running third party as a libertarian, it could be really detrimental to Democrats.
I don't know if he falls that too far into libertarian.
He's pretty close.
I mean, obviously with his,
let's look at this. He has not answered very forthcomingly or extraordinarily forthcomingly about getting rid of other programs, or at least not in any amount of detail that I'm satisfied with. There's also his answer within the last debate.
What do you mean by getting rid of other programs?
So as far as he's been asked quite a few times whether or not giving the $1,000 would mean getting rid of other welfare programs, and he didn't say yes or no. What he has said in quite a few interviews is most people wouldn't need them in the first place. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't qualify for them anymore, and therefore it's a moot point. Which I mean,
I've always thought that was the reason behind it, was to kind of remove the reliance on those sorts of programs.
And that's a great thing. I also want to point to his answer during the last debate, not the most recent one, but the one before that, on environmental policy.
Yes, that was
that is an extraordinarily libertarian approach of thinking about the environment, in my opinion.
I think certain issues I would agree he is, but with the idea of having like a universal income, and of course he's in support of universal health care as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, those are pretty far from libertarian thoughts. I mean, a lot of more of the true libertarians wouldn't really be on board with something like that, and would definitely go against him. He may have some leanings in when it comes to certain areas, but I think other areas that's not necessarily
I disagree.
the case.
When you look at the fundamental basis of the Libertarian Party, it's all about freedom of choice.
Sure.
And a lack and a distrust of extensive oversight. And by just giving people the money, there is no oversight over how people spend it, and it gives them freedom of choice. I think that it might that a certain sect of the Libertarian
maybe
Party
a small group, but I'd have to disagree. I can't think something like
ideology.
A universal income is something that, I mean, no, I can't see that, especially as well as a universal healthcare. I really, and there may be some that more reasonable libertarians that might fall into that camp.
Is he for universal healthcare?
Yes.
I have not heard him talk about.
I've heard a few interviews where he has discussed. He is in support. Yes.
So the government would make sure everything.
Yes, like a single payer. Yeah, like a single payer. I'm not sure if he's in favor of the Warren and Bernie
I'm actually
approach.
Quite surprised that he'd be for.
No, I think he's more along
governmental healthcare. Actually, doesn't fit his platform.
He's
very well.
he's in support of like a single payer type system from the government, but I think also allowing businesses to supplement if people choose to.
Okay. Well, supplemental has its own meaning, which means you'd get rid of most other healthcare companies, which isn't a horrible thing. It just that's surprising actually. I have not heard him talk about healthcare much at all. I think he's a little bit afraid of that topic, or at least that's what I thought. So you may be right. If he is for single payer governmental healthcare, then I would not put him with that with a libertarian party.
Yeah.
I would have assumed that he would have been more for maybe a corporate a governmental mandate on insurance companies to cover.
No, I mean I was surprised when I was listening. I mean I heard this quite a few months back when I first found out about him. But no, I was expecting something along those lines because I kind of had the same hunch that maybe he was more of that freedom of choice, sort of the libertarian ideas. But no, he did actually say that was something he feels should be universal.
Yeah, because I mean
that kind of
the basis of his arguments when he's doing the interviews for the UBI is basically that it's freedom of choice.
Sure.
And it promotes entrepreneurship and business, and it's very fundamental for capitalism. But by him actually going for the universal healthcare or governmentally run single payer kind of thing, it kind of undercuts.
I think he understands that even with a universal UBI of that amount, it's not really reasonable to expect people to have that as well cover. I mean, he hopes to have a lot of these other kind of welfare type programs be removed because you sort of expect it to be supplemented with the UBI. Mm-hmm. But I think he still understands that really can't. It's not going to work for healthcare as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, private insurance companies and pharmaceutical companies have kind of fucked over the American people for quite a long time. We've basically been extorted, which is wonderful when you think about it. It doesn't make you depressed at all. But I actually agree with that view. Maybe not. I'm not really sure about whether it should be single payer or whatever, but I think maybe. Actually, we're getting out of. I have not thought about this.
We can't go too deep into healthcare.
Nope, I have not thought about this. Actually, I have thought about this quite a bit.
3 episodes alone.
I've thought about the process in which the best form of healthcare would come out of the United States, but I have no idea what that would look like. And you and
I think as well. I don't want to keep going. Oh yeah. I think. I mean, this kind of goes into that, but I don't want to get too deep in healthcare. Mm-hmm. But I think as well, it's something that maybe it's not going to be perfect to start in a way. It's almost something you have to try out and see, and then allow it to evolve and grow, and then reform it and adjust
Care
it.
Act, but without trying to kill it via the Supreme Court.
Sure.
Yeah,
But yeah, give it room. Like I can't.
It's basically the fundamental approach of incrementalism. That is what it is.
I think a lot of people don't understand that, where you can't just expect somebody to snap their fingers and solve all these problems that exist.
I actually recently written a paper about that. So yeah, keep going.
Yeah, I'm sure you've covered all this, but I mean, people have to understand that you might want to try out a government program or to implement something new, but it may not always be perfect the first time around, and you want to allow for them to adjust and change based on things that don't work and issues that come up. A lot of times, we talked about this in the last episode, how the intentions of a bill or something a policy or something that might go through isn't always what the results are.
Exactly.
They may have good intentions coming forth, but what ends up happening is it's not the case.
There are side effects that have to be
that a lot of times can't be predicted. You can't.
They always.
It's the human factor. It's the human factor. It's not like we're testing these things in a laboratory where we can predict for everything.
It can't be done.
Yeah.
Even if you did, fundamental rules of statistics would mean that you'd have to have a pretty damn large sample size to really kind of mimic a social situation.
That's where we get our isolated civilization where we
Yeah.
can test these things.
So I
out.
mean, you can do it in another way, and kind of test it out via the
Okay,
state
we're not going to go into that.
whatever. Yeah, state
We'll
level.
discuss that some other time.
Yeah. Sorry, teasing maybe a later episode. But back to the
He's been
debate.
itching to talk about it.
Yeah, I have. I've continued to think more about that process as well, but we can discuss that later.
So yeah, who else? I think that's about everybody, right?
We haven't talked about Klobuchar at all.
Or
Booker.
briefly mentioned.
I mentioned the names, and you
Did
said,
Booker
yeah, they exist.
Yeah. They exist. Did Booker have? I don't remember Booker at all for some reason.
Nope. I don't remember him much either. I wanted to mention his name because I like him as a candidate, and I think he deserves a fair shake. He is.
I think this
moderate.
probably was his weakest showing.
This absolutely was. The debate before that, I'd say, was the strongest.
Yeah.
So.
I'm surprised he didn't get more of a boost from those previous two debates, because I thought he did pretty well in
I agree.
both of those.
I think that, oddly enough, he's a moderate, which is which I kind of like. But in a primary, that's not all that helpful. His record is pretty consistent as far as kind of mixing private and public partnerships and trying to work, trying to utilize the private sector a little bit more. And he's also come up with creative solutions that may not have great support because they're not all that flashy, but they're good. And I kind of like that, personally. Klobuchar on as well. She's not really flashy either, and I'm actually not really sure why she's not gaining more support either. Because I thought that there would be a sect of the primary demographics that would go for her, that would want someone to the right of Biden. Because I mean, Biden is, I guess, he is the center of the Democratic Party. He's not a centrist, but he's the center of the Democratic Party as far as ideology is concerned. And no one's really fulfilled and taken off in the right lane. They've done it in the farther left with Warren and Sanders, but no one's gone off in the right lane and really skyrocketed. I find that interesting.
Because, yeah, Klobuchar probably fills that niche.
Mm-hmm. And Booker possibly too. Possibly, he's a little close. He's closer to Biden than I think even he would like to admit. But I think he's a little bit to the right of Biden, which would be interesting to see.
All right, fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough. All right, so I wanted to do a little. We had talked about this before. A little
fucking
experiment. Yeah, kind of not an experiment, but some predictions to throw out.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what we're going to do is we're going to go through a lot of the candidates, and we're going to, I guess you could say, select whose supporters do you think they could gather if another candidate dropped out.
Mm-hmm.
And we can do it in either direction. Like, let's say Biden drops out for some reason.
Oh, if Biden
and then where would
out,
those candidates?
Oh, do we want to start with that one?
No, let's start with
let's make that one the last one.
Yeah, let's start with the less dramatic ones first.
Oh man, that would make me. Whew. All right,
I'll say we had discussed kind of out of the candidates that were up on stage previously. Mm-hmm. Castro's probably the one that's going to fall first. Who do you think he's going to pick up his small little base? Small little base.
Small little base. Actually, of Castro's voters, Biden will take a little bit of them. I also think that Beto will take some of them as well.
I can agree with that.
Yeah, and you might see a small smattering going towards maybe Kamala Harris or even Elizabeth Warren. I'd say those would be the potential gainers. I don't know by how much. I'd probably say Biden would take a significant portion of those voters.
But you would say pretty widespread, not necessarily.
Mm-hmm. I don't think one person will take those all. But I did want to ask you about one person who wasn't on the debate stage. If Marianne Williamson drops out, who will get their voters? Are they like
Trump.
Bernie or bust voters like 2016 era?
I don't know.
I have a hard
I don't know. Maybe
time
they'll go to
thinking
Yang. Maybe they'll go to the other unusual
truly
candidate.
outsider
Yeah.
candidate. That's possible. Actually, that's as good a guess as I could give as well. Actually, and it has some logic behind it. I'd agree. I honestly don't think they'd go to anyone really.
Yeah,
I
maybe.
think they'd just stay home.
They were just in it for the memes.
Yeah. But sorry, I had to get that out there.
Gabbard, who do you think? She wasn't up on the stage either,
Man.
but she's got a little bit of a base.
Yeah, Gabbard's interesting. Because I honestly think she has some very odd mixtures of policies.
Well, I wanted to throw this out. I mean,
They'd go to Warren. And primarily because this is a theory that I have, that Gabbard voters are very heavily invested in foreign affairs issues.
Well, let me throw this out there. I mean, obviously it's not grounded in any sort of actual data, but from my usual browsings on the interwebs, kind of more the younger crowd, what's relevant online. A lot of the candidates they tend to kind of put their support behind, or like give a positive impression. I mean, you have like, of course, they have the Bernie Bros, as you know, online as well. Some of them do support Warren as well, and of course, Yang is big online with his kind of the memes and the younger crowd around there. But also Gabbard is a big candidate. They also throw their support behind. And I would say probably younger demographics, like 35 and under, more
internet savvy.
Yeah, internet savvy, kind of current.
Yeah, I actually. Gabbard,
I don't know if that relates to anything. But.
No, Gabbard's odd. She is. She has some experience with some foreign affairs stuff, and actually, there's some controversy around her. Some of the things she may have said, and how it was construed, and what she meant behind it. And I won't go into that because I don't have all of the knowledge I'd like to have to make a declarative statement. But
she has some strong opinions in veering one way or the other.
I think Gabbard's voters would likely go to Warren, because she's the only other person I can think of that. And maybe Biden, but I don't see that.
No,
because
I don't think Biden.
I don't think, like you're saying, the young demographic. I think they are under 35.
Maybe even some from Bernie. For Bernie, maybe.
Yeah, some may go for Bernie as well.
I think probably split between Bernie and Warren.
Yeah. And the actually I'd say more for Warren because she has some she's actually made some statements regarding foreign affairs, more so than any other candidate. So if you want someone who's heavily invested in foreign affairs, whether you like the policy or not, because I don't think the policies of Gabbard and Warren actually match up too well, but at least she's invested in it, which is important. So that'd be my guess. I don't know.
Crazy. They go to Bullock.
There's likely not a. Yeah, no. No. Actually, I'd say some odd ones would go to Yang.
Yeah, I could see Yang as well.
Yeah, Gabbard's base may go to Yang. Some of it, a small portion, but some.
Yang's gonna Pac-Man, Nom Nom, all the candidates below
candidates.
him.
Yeah. Oh man, he'll come up with 8 or 9% out of nowhere. Everyone else drops out.
Just taking them up one by one.
All
right, Klobuchar. What do you think hers would go?
Klobuchar's will be interesting. I think Klobuchar's will go a little bit to Biden.
I can see some going to Buttigieg.
A small, actually,
or maybe Booker.
That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say Booker. If you're only focusing on ideology, I'd say they're likely going to Booker. Because or actually,
Biden. You think?
If I will say Biden because I think that after a person's first hardcore, like, oh man, I really want this person to win. It's like, also, I either that or maybe this candidate. Biden will be this.
They just kind of drop into the whoever is the front runner.
Exactly. And if the front runner changes, I'd say that my answer would change as well.
I could actually see that happening with some of the candidates who drop out a lot later. You may fall into the, I don't want to say call it a trap, but you may fall into a situation where once they drop out, they kind of just, I don't want to say given up, but they still feel like they should do their obligation and vote, and they just kind of choose whomever is the top.
Okay, it's that.
Like, they're not really feeling much passion for any other candidate at the time. The field's pretty slim at that point. They just throw their support behind whoever's at the top at that time.
That's what I think would happen partially, and but Booker would probably see ideologically the most voters. Buttigieg is I don't think as many would go to him. Maybe some of the, I don't want to call them the less informed voters because that sounds bad. Buttigieg is an odd case where he actually has progressive ideas, but the process in which he wants to enact and implement those policies are straight out of a more conservative playbook, or more moderate playbook, I should say, which is quite appealing.
Incrementally, as we were saying.
Yes, it's an incrementalist approach, as well as there are underlying values that are kind of focused on that appeal to more moderate voters, I think. So it's possible that Buttigieg will get some, but I don't think he'll get the most.
I think that actually is a similar kind of situation for Warren to Sanders, where I think Warren is probably the better first step to work more towards some of the ideas and
100%. Actually, I honestly think the only difference between Warren and Sanders is process.
Sanders is more of an idealist, while Warren
actually knows how the fuck she wants to get it done. And that's not to say Sanders has not made a huge impact on society as a whole, because he absolutely has. He is the reason why Warren is doing so well right now, and why we're even having this conversation in the first place about, like, universal health
kind of the
care.
Spark that actually started the fire.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Warren is more what he said.
Yeah, he started the fire.
Okay.
Anyway.
All right, Booker. What do you think?
Booker.
You're just gonna go back and say Klobuchar as far.
I would say Klobuchar. There's also, I don't think he doesn't have a lot of support from the Black community, which I find a little surprising. I think he's actually a much he fits more ideologically with the Black community than Biden or Kamala, personally. But I do understand that Biden has kind of laid a groundwork to gain that support. So you could argue whether or not he's earned it or whatever. But
sure.
Yeah. So with that being said, most of his supporters are moderates, likely some college educated individuals who still believe in kind of a controlled capitalism, if you will. So I'd say those voters actually would go. If not
Biden, maybe, or Harris.
No, well, they probably, some would always go to Biden.
Biden's gonna get little bits of everybody.
A small amount to Harris, but I actually think that, and Klobuchar, of course, but there may be a. Yeah, no, I'm not. I was gonna say possibly Buttigieg because of the folksy kind of aura. Yeah, I'm talking about auras. Well, he has kind of I represent my town kind of vibe.
Okay, I got you.
And
Booker,
I agree.
Yeah,
the same way Buttigieg does in some aspects. And if you're kind of honing in on that feeling, then Buttigieg may be a home for that individual. I'm not sure if that kind of voter exists. So that's why I was kind of a little weird on
the aura of Booker will go to Buttigieg.
Yes, I am now channeling Marianne Williamson, the aura of Buttigieg. Or the aura of Booker. But yeah, who's next?
Yang. Where do you think his will go?
Yang's supporters may go to Trump.
Oh Jesus! That's a bit...
Some of
them. I mean, Yang has been pretty
would...
outspoken against Trump. I mean, perhaps, but
Yang's ideology has conservative, a significant conservative foundation. Even though it's a very progressive policy, the foundational values that they're laid upon are quite conservative. I don't know who they will go to. I truly don't. That is,
to be honest, I could see some of them going to like Warren or Sanders. Based on just that a social kind of safety net kind of idea and having more of a, I don't say socialist policy, but even though Yang's maybe more on the libertarian leaning of things, Sanders and Warren would be more the closest candidates that could support something like a UBI in the future, perhaps.
Yeah, the thing is, so I do agree with that as far as the safety net. So if we're looking at Democratic voters from liberal to conservative, and then from populist to what would that be? Maybe pluralist? Pluralist, is that the opposite of populism? I think pluralism is the opposite of populism. We're gonna call it that. Warren is a liberal with a very strong populist sentiment, same as Sanders. Yang is not populist at all, and I think that's the segment of the voting bloc that isn't really for all the populism will not go to Warren due to the fact that she's more populist. Kind of, she's like the mirror of Trump in some aspects. Whereas like Trump is the populist demagogue of the conservative party. Warren is kind of mimics that or mirrors that in some ways, not in others. I'd say that I'd be skeptical to say a significant portion of Yang.
Well, I do agree that based on kind of taking the government out of it in the sense of allowing you to choose where you want to use that UBI or those extra funds you're getting. But I still think a lot of, I mean, that is more individualistic, but I still think a lot of more of the people who might be behind Trump and your traditional conservatives as well, they're not going to be, I mean, they're really all about that pull yourself up by your bootstraps, not really having government or any sort of support from...
I started thinking of the Meghan Trainor song.
What?
I started thinking of the Meghan Trainor song. All About to Be.
How did you think that?
Sorry, because...
Where did that come from?
Basically, you were stating that Trump's base is too conservative. Anyway, continue. I'm sorry. That made me smile. We got to edit that out.
No, but yeah, I mean, I don't think, and I mean, from what I've heard of Yang, I mean, it doesn't come across so much on the debates, but he is pretty outspoken against Trump as well.
Oh no, he is.
I mean, he's definitely,
yeah,
you could say not degrading, but he's gone pretty hard against them.
I was being humorous by saying they'd go to Trump. I don't think that will happen. I was trying to make more of a statement saying that he's in some aspects closer to the Republican Party than the Democratic Party. In all honesty, he would be a true third party candidate that might garner support from both sides. I'd say more from the Democratic side, but based on his social views of how people, like the humanistic approach of how people should be treated, I'd say he'd probably get more of the Democratic Party.
I could see him being a good candidate to pull some people who have kind of been disenchanted by Trump. the Trump regrets, the people who voted for Trump before but didn't really see the results and what they were expecting from him. I could see him being an option too.
Do you think there are a significant number of people, of voters like that in Trump's base?
Well, I wouldn't call them in Trump's base now, but I think there's a decent amount that were kind of the types the ones that maybe voted for Obama and in 2012. Yeah. And then they moved to Trump because maybe they saw a candidate like Hillary. They really thought like, oh, maybe let's sort of shake things up. They were for the idea of Trump getting in and sort of like just blowing the whole system up. Yeah. Obviously, that's not what happened.
Basically, okay, so this is the conclusion I have come to regarding the voters that went Obama and then to Trump. Mm-hmm. Basically, they're the Joker. They are. Yeah, they're in it for chaos. Yeah. They just want to watch the fucking world burn.
Or at the very least, the White House.
Yes. Well, really, it's the whole swamp. But we won't go into that.
Yeah, the swamp.
They just want to see the swamp burn.
Dive right in. All right. We got O'Rourke.
O'Rourke's, Castro will gain some of them. Biden will gain a few. I think Booker might be able to take some of them. I'd hope. I'd say those would be the major ones that would be gotten from O'Rourke. Okay. Biden most of all, probably. But
do you think Harris supporters are going to go to Biden?
A large portion of Harris's supporters will go to Biden. I think there is a significant portion of her constituents, not her constituents, her base. I don't want to keep saying base. Is there another word for base?
All about it.
Yeah.
Her supporters,
proponents, whatever you want to call them. I think there's a significant portion that
people that like Harris.
Yes. There's a significant number of those voters who would like to see a woman in the White House, and I think that those will go to Elizabeth Warren.
Okay.
There are people who feel kind of cheated by what happened in 2016 regarding Clinton's campaign, and I think that they're more motivated than ever to get out there and vote, where they may have been a little disillusioned or disheartened by who Clinton was, or whatever.
Sure. No, I can agree with that.
So I do think that gender and race may have a small role to play, but I don't know how significant it is. I don't know. I'm not sure how many people.
There's definitely a sizable percentage. Yeah. I think would.
I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure how many people are voting just based on demographics, and I don't want to make that assumption.
There's always going to be. It's just how large is that?
Well, the thing is, there's a significant number of very, very liberal, college-educated white voters that do vote based on race, where they've, and this is based on a study that I recently looked into, and it showed that this sect of these college-educated, super liberal white voters favor the opposite gender and black candidates at a significantly higher rate. And when they were given racial bias tests, they actually showed some bias towards their own race, which a little interesting. But at least I think so. But I don't think that there's a whole lot of individuals. I don't think many people in the black community just vote for black voters because, I mean, Biden's right there. He has gained a significant number of the support among the black community.
But don't you see it says Obama Biden?
But what?
It says Obama Biden.
Obama Biden?
Yeah.
Obama Biden. Is that he's going to change his name
He changed his first name to Barack. Or he changed his last name to Obama. They adopted him.
It's Joe Rock. Joe Rock. Joe Rock Biden. But anyway, no.
Joe Rock Biden. That sounds like a
Joe Rock Biden.
Like a sacred, like religious area or place. Like
well, to some people it is.
I guess I'm thinking of like the Rock of Gibraltar.
Yeah. Wait.
Rock of Gibraltar.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know.
Isn't it? Rock of Gibraltar. Yeah.
Sure. No, but so aside, so we got the racial aspect and then gender. There, I have listened to a couple podcasts that are stating that women from suburbs are very much in support or going towards voting for a female candidate. Yeah. So I think gender may actually be more of a factor than race. So
okay. Just in like the last 5 minutes you went for, I think it is a factor. Maybe not, but no.
More. I said more of. Overall, I think it's a very small amount. Yeah.
No, like I said, I do agree with that. I think that's a reasonable assumption that at least a chunk will, a percentage, even a small percentage.
I think it'll be pretty small, but All
right, Buttigieg.
If Buttigieg drops out, some will go for. Okay, so the individuals that are focusing on his process, they will go to more moderate candidates like Booker and Klobuchar. People who are focusing on the actual policy itself will actually, I think Kamala Harris.
Harris, really?
Yeah. Kamala Harris is the closest ideological candidate to Buttigieg. The major difference between Kamala Harris and Buttigieg is their process. The reason I am a proponent of Buttigieg and not Kamala Harris, because I feel like this has to be stated, is the process aspect. Kamala Harris has stated multiple times that she'd get things that she wants to get done in unconstitutional ways. Buttigieg has not. Ergo, I support Buttigieg.
Well, out of the top three, I guess, I'm trying to pull a candidate above them as well.
It'd be a pretty even split between Warren and Biden if you're talking about just the top three. I don't know how many. I'm honestly kind of counting Sanders out. I don't think that. I don't think Sanders is going to gain too many more voters. I think the voters that would have gone to him are going to go to Warren most of the time.
And so I guess that leads us into Sanders. Warren are going to get Sanders supporters.
Yeah, Warren will absolutely get Sanders.
And this is probably one of the biggest, I guess, cases where they're going to get the majority of their supporters.
Yeah. If Sanders drops out, Warren wins the election. Not wins the whole election, wins the primary election. I really hope that she'd also go all through and win the general. But I also wanted to talk strategy. If Sanders wins if Warren wins the primary, is Sanders going to be her vice president?
I think it's a possibility, definitely.
Now, is that the strategically best option for her?
Probably not, because you're not going to pick up as many outside. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I thought the same thing. Problem, though, is if she doesn't pick Sanders, she might lose voters.
That's true as well.
That's got to be pretty rough. Oh, back to talking about Kamala Harris a second ago.
Yes.
I think her a significant portion of her voters could go to Buttigieg. That was my point in the. Sorry about that. That was my point in the first place. Talking about the race and gender. If you take that portion of the population out of Harris's voters, I think a significant number of those who focus on ideological aspects of the candidate could go to Buttigieg. I think he's the closest one to her ideologically.
All right, fair enough. And of course, Warren.
Warren actually will a significant portion of them will go to Sanders if she drops out. But like I said, I think gender may be a factor within this, pro and anti, actually. That's why I also wanted to state that if Sanders drops out, there will be some that don't want to go for a female candidate because sexism. That sounds like a meme, because sexism. But no, there is a portion that that won't. But the opposite is also true. Warren's some of Warren's voters will go to a significant portion will go to Sanders, but there will also be some that may divvy up between Kamala Harris and Klobuchar if she's still in at the time.
Yeah. And then of course Biden.
Oh, and Gabbard. Actually, I think probably more Gabbard than Klobuchar. But keep going.
True. Biden. If
Biden drops out, Buttigieg may win. No, I guarantee it. You will see Buttigieg spike quite a bit. Or at least he won't win. He will have a significant higher chance of winning.
I could see if, for instance, Biden just suddenly dropped out right now. I could see his voters being spread out amongst a lot of the I don't want to say lower tier, but the lower polling candidates at the moment.
I think some Warren might pick up a few as well. But man, I actually see,
I think he's really a case where you could see a pretty good. There would definitely be large chunks to certain candidates, but you could see a pretty good spread amongst all the candidates. Mm-hmm. If something like right now he were to drop out,
I'd
still
say
have a lot of these other players.
I'd say these are the three biggest names that they would go to. Booker, Kamala, Buttigieg. Those are the three biggest spikes that I'd see.
Yeah, fair enough.
Primarily because he has a significant portion of the black community's vote. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I was gonna say Harris.
Yep. Harris actually would gain a shit ton. The fact that that black community is also more socially conservative ish. They might go for a more moderate candidate. So I think actually Klobuchar may pick up a couple as well, not as much as the other three. But also Booker's a moderate as well, so he'd gain some of the electorate. And then Buttigieg actually he's calling it his Douglas plan. It's pretty broad actually, and it tackles a lot of social justice issues. And if you're just going off of policy, he could also split some of the vote within the black community. But outside of the black community, his other voters are old people.
Yeah.
It's true. Of the, I don't know who old people would maybe go. Yeah, I'm gonna say Buttigieg and Booker. We'll get the old kinda the older demographic. Primarily because of Buttigieg's process and Booker's moderate stance.
I'm curious as far as, I'll have to look into that later, but as far as demographic wise, what the polling data states on there.
What do you mean?
But amongst the candidates.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know if you know, but
all I know is that demographic support among candidates. I know Biden's, and I know a little bit about Warren's. Hers are more college-educated white voters. I think liberals from the Northeast.
I'm curious just for age, I guess.
For who?
Just for age, as far as.
Oh, I do know a little bit about that. Biden is not doing as well with younger voters.
Sure.
He's got an older.
I mean, that's pretty obvious even without looking at any data.
Yes. Sanders has some pretty damn young voters.
Sure. It's pretty obvious as well.
Semi college educated. There's a mix there. Warren is very much the same as Sanders, except much more highly educated, and maybe a little bit more well off. And then, of course, she also is garnering support of very, very young voters, like Gen Z voters that are going to be voting in this coming election. Yeah, for the first time, and that's going to be a big deal. I don't know if there's anyone talking about that.
Post 9/11 kids.
Yes. Well, the thing is, there's been a significant number of Generation Z that people are saying is they're activists, if you will. They're more willing to go out and kind of let their voice be heard. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that correlates to voting, but it might. So we may see a significant number of Generation Z turning up to vote.
That's a good thing.
We should look out for that to see if that's correct, and I truly hope it is. Other age demographics. I don't really know for the rest of them.
I'll look into it on my own time.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was thinking of something. Okay, so how are we on time?
We're almost at the mark, but I had a few more things I wanted to throw out there. Just real quick, we'll run these off. Events, or what do you think will happen post the first couple primaries? What do you think we'll see? It's like what kind of action as far as movement in candidates based on who's left or whatever.
I think Warren will win Iowa. You know Ohio. You know how important Ohio's primary is.
It's very important. A lot more important than Iowa.
Anyway.
No hate to Iowa.
Yeah. So Iowa will, I think, will go to Warren or Biden. And I think third, you may see Klobuchar or Booker or Buttigieg, one of those three, depending on how the next couple debates go. New Hampshire, Warren, hands down. South Carolina, Biden, if he's still in it by then. Followed by Kamala Harris.
Isn't Nevada actually next? Nevada moved up, I believe, is the third one now.
Yeah, Nevada, I don't know who. I don't know what the electorate or the atmosphere is like in Nevada.
I mean,
I know there's Las Vegas, and then there's
you get Las Vegas, Reno, and then
the rest of Nevada. Yeah. I mean,
the rest of Nevada is like it's two guys in the middle of a desert.
Yeah, it's actually a single town. It's the biggest town in the country, actually. It's just called the rest of Nevada. Yeah.
I mean, you have some crossover of kind of the rancher sort of Midwest feel, where you're getting bits of Arizona kind of, and more of the state of Nevada, because obviously
you might have more
conservative leanings, you would say.
Yeah,
but then
you'd have Union Democrats, right?
Some. I mean, obviously there's not tons of farmland in Nevada. It's pretty barren for what it is.
Well, I mean, what about I can't say anything. And then I knew nothing of
Vegas is like a total.
It's
all up in the air. Yeah, who knows what goes on there?
It's literally
didn't they elect for, I don't know if it was the mayor or like a representative in
Bob Saget. I don't know.
Not Bob Saget. No, they elected was it a mob boss or like a pimp or something?
Wait, what?
They elected like an old mob boss or something.
Oh, shit.
A casino owner or something in the past election.
Go Mafia.
I think they elected a dead guy before.
Nah.
Yeah. There's been some pretty crazy elections in Nevada.
Yeah, I know nothing of Nevada. Actually, it's one of the few places, like, if you gave me a free ticket to go, I'd
check it out.
I'd turn it in for the refund.
Really?
Yeah.
Nah, I'd check it out.
I do. I have no interest in Vegas, and I do not like the idea of the desert.
I don't think the appeal. It's not that appealing, but I think for just the gaudiness and the ridiculousness of Vegas, I would still just like to see it for how crazy. Yeah, just for how absurd and
I will go for the
ridiculous
absurdity of Louisiana over Nevada.
No, I don't want that southern heat. Ugh.
It's the desert in Nevada.
It's dry heat, though. I'm fine with that. I don't want the sticky, mosquito-infested swamps down in Louisiana.
Yeah, we can go during winter. It's still going to be nice down there. But anyway.
We're arguing over what state's better. I mean, I would still go to, like, New Orleans. I think it's still worth it.
Yeah. Who do you think Nevada will?
I have no idea.
And then we could go over.
I don't know if you would get any, like, let's say Harris, like some people fall out from California. That's not even really the case. I mean, yeah, Nevada is such a. I mean, it's been you could say a battleground state the past couple elections. I believe Obama won in 2008, but then I think it flipped, and Mitt Romney won it in 2012.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. It's an interesting state. I don't know.
Yeah, I skip.
And then as far as like events, I guess other sorts of things you think would happen post primaries, like do you think anybody's gonna drop? You think like where does that go from there? I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
Oh, Kamala Harris has like the and this is quite recent, the all-in on Iowa. If she doesn't place like top 5-ish, top 3 to top 5, might be top 3, and she might just drop out. I also think that
has she stated that, or are you just
the campaign has hinted at it.
Okay.
And actually you should do some more research on that as well. It's interesting, and I only know a little bit based on some political punditry I listen to from CNN. So I also think Klobuchar, Bullock, a crap ton of them will drop out either a little bit before or a little bit after. Actually, I'd probably say people who aren't on the stage probably won't make it to the caucus, to the Iowa caucus. There's no way you can maintain that funding.
Sure.
So I'd say most of them already dropped out. Klobuchar, I'd say, Yang will likely drop out by then as well, after the first caucus. Or actually, he might actually stay till maybe New Hampshire, but
I think, in my opinion, I mean, it's just my opinion, but I think with Iowa being such an oddball, if you have enough of a support and you see maybe a top 5 showing in Iowa, I think it's worth it to kind of stay in for the next couple primaries.
Oh, yeah.
If you still got the funds and you still have enough support behind you, I think it's worth it.
Sanders, well, no, I mean, and here's my argument. If Sanders doesn't drop out, and you could also make the argument for Warren. Warren could also drop out, but I like Warren better. I am biased. So if Sanders doesn't drop out, then it could cost before Iowa, it could cost Warren the entire election, primary and general.
My statement was more in general, I guess.
Okay.
Not necessarily towards one candidate or the other. I'm thinking just not like if you have a support that would go to another candidate. I'm just thinking like in general. I'm saying if you have garnered enough support at that point, and being Iowa is so strange in a lot of its voting patterns, I think it's worth it to stick in past Iowa for the first couple primaries before you make that final decision. Just as a general sentiment or idea.
That's fair. Yeah, I'd agree with that. With that exception, I I mean, just based on the fact that just because you have support doesn't mean that you will win. And the other cases could be the same way. If you end up seeing a candidate that, like two candidates that closely mimic each other ideologically and they share a base, even if those two, the fact that those two end up in the top 5 in a caucus, while awesome, does not mean that that both of them should continue to the rest of them. I think that's a horrible idea, and at that point you really have to think, if you're not number 1 already, then you should really think about just bowing out. I mean, 'cause you can fuck it up for both of you, and that's not fun. Yeah, I mean, if you have someone that's that's closely ideologically aligned to you,
Mm-hmm.
you could bow out and say, okay, I at least want someone who has the same ideas that I have.
Sure.
And that's, yeah, I think that's important.
Fair enough. All right. Well, I think that's about it as far as what I have. Do you have anything else?
No, it's been way too, this actually felt really long for some reason.
Yeah,
why did it feel long? How what are we on time?
We're almost minute 30.
Okay, actually,
or not an hour 30. I always say that.
Yeah,
an hour 30, not a minute 30.
We've been here.
It's
been a super long minute.
It's been a minute.
All right.
It's like the saying, it's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a minute, man.
All right.
Anyway.
Yeah. I think that's about it for today.
Yep. We've done our housekeeping. Do you want to restate anything?
Sure. Just, of course, like and subscribe if you have not already. Be sure to follow us up on Twitter.
Yep.
Throw us a tip or donation if you can. We'll be back next week with the second part of the
ethics debate.
Yeah. In as far as the different branches of government, keeping a standard of code of ethics. Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to say?
No. Not at all.
All right. Fair enough.
I'm Dylan.
I'm Jeremy.
Have a good night.
Good Sunday.